Welcome everyone to another Lake Lewis Jr. show. Appreciate you joining me as always. And it's easy to find this show. If you want to subscribe to it via any podcast carrier, you can go to Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, you name it, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and it's on there. If you want to watch it, which you might be doing right now, you can actually watch it on YouTube under the Sports Journey channel. And then, of course, you can go to sportsjourney.com and watch it there. If you want to follow me on social media to get more information as far as NFL coverage that I do, you can go to Lake Lewis Jr., and that's on all social media formats. X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, as well as IG, where I've been getting busy on IG. So definitely check it out there. Lots of stuff that we're going to talk about today. Naturally, this show is Commander-centric and also talks about the NFL as well, where I'm an insider. So with that being said, the Washington Commanders, we're going to have practice again tomorrow, prepping for Cincinnati. They have a really big, important game against the Bengals, who are 0-2 on the season, surprisingly. And the Commanders are going to have to try to find a way to win in a hostile environment in Cincinnati. So that's going to be a game that I don't think a lot of people are going to have Washington giving them a chance. I think as of today, the spread in that game is 7.5. So if you're a betting person out there, which I don't condone, but if you are a betting person, I'm taking Washington in the 7.5 because I think it's going to be closer than that. Look, what do we see on Sunday that makes you feel better about the Burgundy and Gold, that makes you feel better about this football team? And for my money, it starts at the quarterback position. I think when you look at everything that they have right now in Jayden Daniels, they have an it. They have a piece now, a centerpiece. They have something that other teams have had around the league for years, and that's a toy that they can play with. Now Washington has one too. So the other teams now are looking at Washington's toy and saying, man, it must be nice to have something like that. So that's what Washington has for them. And I think as long as you have one of those toys, like, just look at the Buffaloes and the Kansas Cities and the Baltimores, Cincinnati, ironically, of the world. When you look at those type of players and quarterbacks at the position, it gives you a chance to feel like you can be in any football game. And right now, Jayden Daniels is starting to get some awards, not awards, but some recognition. Matter of fact, Jayden Daniels right now, and as you can see here on the screen, he is a quarterback that is doing something that has never been done. Literally, we've never seen it. Jayden Daniels, as you can see right here, the only first-round quarterback with 500 plus total yards and 0 giveaways through 2 career starts. And that's going back to 1970, folks. He does not turn the football over. And if you look at his body of work when he was in college at Arizona, he did not turn the football over. And it's a trend that's happening right now in the NFL. I think the talk right now around a lot of water coolers around the nation's capital, and maybe even the country for that matter, because now they have a centerpiece player that other fans around the country are going to start growing up and liking. Well, the talk is he needs to stop running. He needs to get down. Listen, folks, I understand that argument, but for the life of me, it drives me crazy. It makes me pull my hair out, and, well, I don't have any hair, but if I had hair, I'd be pulling it out, because you can't take away the man's strengths. You can't take away his God-given ability. That's what makes this kid special. That's what makes the Lamar Jackson special. That's what makes Josh Allen special, makes Patrick Mahomes special. Do you notice the trend? Jalen Hurts, do you notice the trend I'm going with here? That's today's NFL quarterback. And actually, I wanted to talk about this because for all the naysayers out there that are saying he's going to get hurt, he's not going to make it through a season if he keeps doing this, I hate to tell you, my friends, because I love everybody out there, but you're wrong. And I'm going to prove it to you. Look at this graphic right here. This graphic says it all, folks. When to run. Career rushing attempts from some of the biggest name quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Lamar Jackson, as you can see, 896 career rushes. Lamar Jackson's never missed a season, folks. He missed 7 games a couple years ago, but we all know that was a contract dispute. That was him Basically letting Baltimore know this is what it's going to look like if I'm not signed to a lucrative deal the following season. And we saw that got worked out. Okay, so back at the graph. Here we go. Aaron Rodgers, surprisingly, 722 career rushing attempts. Now, you can make an argument with me, well, this totally refutes your point because Aaron Rodgers, has missed a lot of games getting hurt. Aaron Rodgers, we know, had the Achilles tear last year. I kind of liken that to old age because Kirk Cousins, who's on the list as well, had the same thing happen. But Aaron Rodgers had collarbone issues when he was in Green Bay. First couple years of his career, he's dealing with collarbone issues that caused him to miss 18 games in Green Bay. Okay? So, looking at this list still, Josh Allen, 668 rushing attempts. Okay? Jalen Hurts, 550 rushing attempts. Josh Allen, to a lot of people, is the most talented quarterback in the NFL. If he's not on your list, he's definitely a top 5 quarterback for sure. Jalen Hurts, whether he's deficient in certain areas, he still took the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And he has, like I said, 550 rushing attempts on his career. Looking at the graphic here, Matthew Stafford, surprisingly, 411 rushing attempts. Took a team to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott, 410 rushing attempts. Now, we do know Dak got hurt too. Had the dislocated and broken ankle. That derailed him, and he's not running as much now. And the irony is, he doesn't look like he did before the injury. So all these things lead to what I'm getting ready to say after we finish this list. Patrick Mahomes, 380 rushing attempts. Kirk Cousins, 309. We talked about the Achilles injury. Justin Herbert, 234 rushing attempts. And Joe Burrow, 193 career rushing attempts. Do you see a pattern here, folks? As the numbers drop, the injuries mount. So let me say that again. As the numbers drop, the injuries mount. And the reason for that is quite simple. And it leads to my argument of stop telling Jayden Daniels to stop running the football. Stop telling Lamar Jackson to stop running the football. No one's telling Josh Allen that. I understand he's a large man, 6'5", 240 pounds, and Lamar's not and Jayden's not. But that's today's game. These guys are supreme athletes, and this is what makes them dangerous. The other irony to this is that for everyone that keeps saying defensive players are bigger, faster, stronger, and they're coming with more violent intentions, you're 100% correct. No one's ever argued that. That is the prized analogy of everything. You're 100% correct. But guess what? Do you want your quarterback to be stationary if the defenders are bigger, faster, stronger with violent intentions? No, you want them to be able to move the pocket. You want them to be able to escape. You want them to be able to have off-schedule plays. You want all of those things. That's why RPOs have become so big. It's part of today's game. And if you take away the strength of a Jayden Daniels, which is the fact that he has a supreme run game to his arsenal, you're going to make him an ordinary quarterback. And God knows we've seen enough ordinary quarterbacks in Washington. Who wants to see that? I know I don't. So let that man eat. Let him do what he does because he's getting the recognition and the attention of all the other teams in the NFL. He's getting the attention of other fans. And there's going to be a lot of, cynics out there and a lot of naysayers that are going to say, just watch, it's coming. He's going to get hurt. What great quarterback in the NFL has not been hurt before? Well, I'm going to say this. You saw the list. You saw Lamar's been hurt before. Josh Allen's missed a game or two. Okay, we know that. Jalen Hurts, I think over the last 3 years, missed 6 games. Well, 2 of those games don't count because that was him sitting out the final game of the regular season because they had clinched, a playoff berth and in 1 year home field advantage, the year they went to the Super Bowl, by the way. Okay, so these guys don't miss a lot of games. But once you go down to the bottom of the list and you see Joe Burrow's missed a lot of football over his career. Matter of fact, Joe Burrow's missed 6 or more games in 2 seasons. So that's not necessarily a good thing for a 5th-year quarterback. He's got the injury bug. You go on the list again. I'll pull it back up for you just so you can see what we're talking about here. Justin Herbert. 234 career rushing attempts. That's low compared to the top guys at the top of this list. And he's hurt. He's hurt quite a bit. So again, you sure you want your guy staying in the pocket? You sure you want your guy proving that he can stand in there and take hits? You sure you want that? Because it seems to me like the guys that run the football the most are the guys that are being able to play and extend, their career, their seasons. It's the guys that are standing in the pocket that are taking the brutal hits. And this isn't something that's just happening in Generation X, or Generation Z, whatever you want to call them. This isn't just happening in today's game. This is the history of the league. If you look at some of the GOATs in the NFL, folks, if you look at the greats, the Joe Montanas, missed a season with a bad back. You look Peyton Manning, missed a season with a neck injury. Okay? Tom Brady, the GOAT of them all, missed a season because of an ACL tear. Okay? And where did those injuries happen? In the pocket. Okay? Matter of fact, if you want to throw at me, well, Lamar runs, he's reckless, he's going to get hurt. Lamar Jackson, when he did get injured, where did he get injured? In the pocket. That's all I'm trying to tell you. So you're out of pocket for wanting these quarterbacks to be in the pocket. How about that for one? I really mean that, folks. Check yourself and let these players be who they are. They've been playing football since they were toddlers. This is what's gotten them to the NFL. This is what's made them the best of the best. What's made them great is because they're versatile. It's because today's game, and this isn't a racial issue. A lot of people say, oh, you're only saying that because he's a black quarterback. Well, you know what? Josh Allen, white, and Josh Allen is the second most, career rushing attempts in the league right now, next to Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers. It's actually Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if you look at the list, Aaron Rodgers, 722, surprisingly. So he's white. But Josh Allen, one of the young guns, he's right on the list right there. So the argument, if it's race, let's refute all of that because we don't talk about that on this show. Let's not go there. Because if you're going to go there, then the top 3 rushing attempts for a career in the NFL as of today, current players, would have a black quarterback 1, and the next 2 guys would be white. So it's not about that. It's style of play. I'm telling you, what's made Aaron Rodgers so great over the years is the fact that he can extend plays, is that he can make all the throws. But his versatility is you not knowing what he's going to do, him not being predictable. And I think that that's where the game is going now. Offenses are set up now to give guys a chance to come in right out of college and be productive because they're not asking them to survey the field. They're not asking them, and this isn't all coordinators, but most offensive coordinators will tell you, they're not asking their quarterback to look at 1, 2, 3. They're not asking them to do that. They're asking them to look at their lead receiver, and if that person's not open, you can pull the ball down or you can improvise. But they're not asking them to read and react like they used to. The game has changed because of the speed of the defenders. So I think fans have to understand this is where we are right now. You have to, take it or leave it. And I can tell you right now, your quarterback for your team, more than likely, is a mobile quarterback. That's just the way the league is going. You're not going to have too many stationary, statuesque players in there. You look at the draft class from last year with Caleb Williams, number 1. Caleb Williams is an improviser. That's what he does. Maybe sometimes too much off schedule, and he's struggling a little bit right now. But for the most part, he's a guy that can make some things happen. Not as dynamic as the number 2 pick, which is here in Washington, Jayden Daniels. Jayden's a supreme runner. But he's still a guy that can move around, and that's what we know what Jayden can do. Need not talk about that. Okay, you look at Drake May. Drake May is not a statuesque quarterback. You go back to his film at Carolina, he was a guy that could get out and move around. Is he as dynamic as Jayden Daniels? No, but he's probably a little bit more athletic. He's right up there with Caleb. Maybe not as fast, but he can move around in the pocket and extend plays and get out and make some things happen. We haven't seen that yet in the NFL because he's not starting. He's sitting behind Jacoby Brissett probably for about another 4 or 5 games. And then you'll see that when he plays because he's going to have to need that athleticism and those legs to bail him out from what his eyes can't pick up yet as far as reading defenses. All you have to do is just look around the league, folks. It's there. Baker Mayfield right now, undefeated Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a guy that will get out and move if he has to. We already talked about Matthew Stafford. You look at every great quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. He does it all the time. He beats people with his legs at times. But no one's saying he needs to stop running. He can't, because that's who he is. That's who these guys are. They can sling it all over the field and they can run all over the field. And that's just the way it's going to be. And you're going to have to accept that. So I had to get that off my chest, folks, because a lot of people are just, this isn't good and it's going to get them hurt. Stop it. Let this man be special. Let him be who he is. Because if you take anything away from him, and I'll say this to you, if somebody tells you to do something that's not you, you're not going to be yourself. You're not going to be your authentic self. So let Jayden and the rest of these quarterbacks in today's game do what they do. There are consequences. We know it. There are consequences for even putting the helmet on in the first place. So you don't want to get out there and play timid and not play free, because then you will get hurt. Trust me, that's athlete talk there. You will get hurt playing timid, playing soft, okay? Other storylines, NFL, week 3 coming up. We talked about Cincinnati being 0-2, which is a kind of a surprise. I think they acquitted themselves to show that they're not a bad team, obviously. They are contenders still. They really are. They should have beat Kansas City last week in Arrowhead. They had Kansas City on the ropes, came down to some calls and, just execution. So Kansas City wins that game to remain undefeated, and Cincinnati falls to 0-2. And one of the toughest divisions in football, at least that's what everyone thought on paper. Now, if you look at the AFC East, you go to that division and you see a surprise team in New England that's playing well. The Jets, got to win. So there's parity going across the board here. But if you get back to Cincinnati at 0-2, they've got to do something here. They've got to pick it up in the AFC North, because Pittsburgh's 2-0. Surprisingly, Pittsburgh's 2-0 with a chance to go to 3-0 this week. They have a winnable football game. So Pittsburgh 2-0, Baltimore 0-2, Cincinnati 0-2, Cleveland got demolished their first game against Dallas. They did acquit themselves and beat Jacksonville last week, who's looking bad at 0-2 themselves. But that division is up for grabs now. So if you're Washington, you're kind of catching Cincinnati, in my opinion, at the right time. If you were catching Cincinnati at 2-0, going at home, playing in Cincinnati at home, on a Monday night, may not have fared too well. Now people are saying, well, they're going to definitely go into a buzzsaw because Cincinnati's going to be pretty PO'd that they haven't won a game. Well, I kind of look at that differently. I think you're catching Cincinnati, and they're going to be a little tight around the collar, because they understand you lose Monday, your season is on the brink of being over before it even started. The chances of you making the playoffs, even though you play 17 games now, the chances of you making the playoffs literally at 0-3 would mean that in your final 15 games, you're probably going to have to win bare minimum 10 of them, which means you're going to have to win. You have to be 10-5 down the stretch, which is doable for Cincinnati. But that's not a guarantee that you make the playoffs in the AFC. You might need 11 wins, which means at that point now you have to go 11-4 down the stretch. That's going to be tough in that division. That's going to be tough with their schedule. So Cincinnati almost has to get a win on Monday night. And if you're Washington now, you're playing with house money. You can go up there and steal one and signal to the nation that it really is a new regime and a new change in the nation's capital. And it could put Jayden Daniels firmly, feet planted, on the map as far as one of the next young guns in the NFL. Other teams out there struggling a little bit. You can stay in the NFC East. The Eagles let one get away from them against the Atlanta Falcons. And now if you look at the Eagles at 1-1, they've got a tough one coming up this weekend. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, let's put some things in perspective here. Think the Eagles have the Saints? Saints are undefeated. The Cowboys play Baltimore. Baltimore's, hasn't won a game. So who you taking there? That's a tough game in Dallas right there. I'm kind of leaning towards Lamar to go in there and get the dub and drop Dallas to 1-2. So that's going to be an interesting game on top of that. Notice I didn't mention the Giants because it really doesn't matter at this point. Sorry if you're a Giants fan. There's so many compelling things going on around the NFL right now. If I told you that the Seattles of the world, the Minnesotas of the world, that these teams would be undefeated. You would scratch your head and say that's impossible. Well, that's where we are in today's NFL. It's called parity, folks. A lot of you who wanted that, I'm not a big fan of parity. I'm not. I like seeing other teams come up that haven't done anything. Be nice to see a Detroit Lions win a Super Bowl, in my time, just because they've never done it. It'd be nice to see, some of these teams that have never done it under my watch. Cleveland maybe get a Super Bowl. Yeah, these teams had NFL championships back in the day when my grandfather was alive, but at the end of the day, they haven't done it in the Super Bowl era. So it's cool to see like the emergences of New England over that period with Tom Brady. I remember when New England was terrible, like Charles Barkley says, terrible. They were horrible. But to see them change, to see Cincinnati on the up and up. I remember, Kenny Anderson and those guys. I remember the Icky Shuffle and all that stuff. But to see some of these teams, making a rebound, Detroit, like I said, there's so many other teams out there that, were really bad football teams. And now, some of them are like the cream of the crop around the league. So I remember when the Eagles couldn't get it done. They could not get to a Super Bowl or win one. I remember the one year they did go to the Super Bowl and got obliterated by the Oakland Raiders, Jim Plunkett and that team, Cliff Branch and those guys. But to see the way the league has gone now, I think most NFL, executives and owners are happy, to see that every team right now has their fan base involved, because everyone feels like there's hope, especially when you see front running teams that were expected to get to the Super Bowl at 1-1 or 0-2. That gives anyone hope. The only team that may not have hope is Carolina, because they look dreadful, folks. No offense. I know they're going to start. They benched Bryce Young, and they're going to start. Now I'm going brain dead. Redhead. Oh my God. They're going to have a new quarterback in there, and Andy Dalton. Sorry about that, Andy. So they're going to have Andy Dalton in there, and he's a veteran. He's a guy that's had some success. Had a nice run in Cincinnati, ironically. So does he help them? I know they went out and drafted the kid Leggett, a really nice big physical receiver. I mean, they have some pieces in there. I know they traded for Deontay Johnson, from Pittsburgh. So they have some pieces. It just hasn't been working. And they benched Bryce Young, number one pick from last year is benched already. I hope that's not the signal that he can't play in the league, but he does look really tiny out there. Like he's having a tough time, being able to make plays, because, he doesn't have the most athletic traits about him. He's just a cerebral type player. At Alabama, he had everything he needed to be successful. They had the best players, the best talent. And now with Carolina not having that, playing against the best players and the best talent in the world on the opposing teams, he's struggled. So hopefully they're sitting him down to kind of repair some things with his mental makeup, get his confidence back so he can come back. Because I'd hate to see it over before it even started for the young man, because he's a good kid. So lots of stuff going on around the league, man. It's going to be exciting this week for week 3. It really is. Just to see those compelling storylines. Do the Ravens, a team that I still personally feel like they're the second or third best team in all of football. They haven't shown it, but I still feel like that. I mean, they could be 0-3 after this weekend. And again, the chances of doing anything, it drops very slim for you if you can't do that. So it's going to be interesting, folks, to see how this thing plays out. And before we get out of here, I definitely have to shout out. There was no way I could get through this show without shouting out Austin Seibert, the kicker for the Washington Commanders, who was just signed a little bit over a week ago. What does he do? He just comes in and kicks 7 in a row, 7 field goals, 7 for 7. Had all the points for Washington in their win against the Giants, the 21 points they put up to win, 21-18. That's all off the leg of Austin Seibert. And today, he was named the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. So congratulations to Austin Seibert. He's only the 7th player in franchise history to ever be named that. So his magical week continues. Hopefully, it'll keep going on and on and on, because Washington has had their struggles at that position. But wanted to shout him out before we wrap up today's show. As always, I try to jump on and give you about a good 25, 30 minutes and we're almost at that mark right now. We're at 24 to be exact. See, got a biological clock in my head here. As always, folks, you can follow me on social media. You can follow me at Lake Lewis Jr. on all social media platforms. And remember to subscribe to the podcast. We've gotten a lot of subscribers over the last, since we did the first show a couple of days ago. So over the last week, we've picked up quite a few, and we appreciate you. I definitely greatly appreciate you. So remember, in order to do that, all you have to do is look up the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. It's everywhere, folks. It really is. So, and if you want to watch it, which you're probably doing right now, if you're not listening to this, you're watching it on YouTube. So it's on the Sports Journey channel. So as always, we'll keep pushing out this content. Remember to see my stand-ups from practice. You can go to the Sports Journey channel for that as well. And then, of course, post-game stuff that I do for ABC in DC. This past week, I was on ABC as well as I was on Fox in DC. So you can see those things on the Sports Journey YouTube channel and on sportsjourney.com, where a lot of my colleagues doing a great job running the business for me, doing some phenomenal stuff. So you can go to sportsjourney.com and see their work as well. So as always, appreciate you joining me, taking time out of your busy schedule. Remember to be safe out there, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.